Support for the Pocketnow podcast comes from Caseta by Lutron. A lot of people think you need smart bulbs to get smart lighting, but there's a smarter way with Caseta Smart Lighting Control from Lutron. Caseta's smart dimmers and switches replace the switch in your wall so that all of the lights controlled by that switch will act smart. You get the best of both worlds, smart lighting control from an app or your voice, and control right at the switch. I'm actually using Caseta Smart Lighting right now, and one great product that they have is the plug-in adapter. It goes right into the plug in your wall, and anything plugged into it can be controlled remotely using the remote, but also using a Wi-Fi bridge that connects it to my home Wi-Fi. Using the app at that point on my Android smartphone, I can not only control what is plugged into it, but also set schedules, which has been a very useful feature. So get smart lighting the smart way with Caseta by Lutron smart switches. Learn more about Caseta at lutron.com/weekly. That's lutron.com/weekly. All right, we have a rare occurrence where TK Bay is actually not remoting in. He's actually here in the office, which is awesome, is be able to do like a face-to-face talk.
And I've been trying to do that for a while, so this is it's been in the works. But yeah, finally we're able to actually drive down. We're not too far, but scheduling has always been an issue. So I'm really happy that we were able to work it out.
Well, thanks for coming by, especially if, like, so this guy probably has a ton of jet lag right now. Has it been really bad? Because you just came back from China.
I just came back from China. The week before that, the week before was me recovering from Tokyo, and then there was the New York thing. So yeah, the last 3 weeks have been all over the place. I'm trying to stabilize and then catch that train that just passed by.
Yeah, this is the very common occurrence in San Dimas.
Quiet out there.
I want to know about this China trip because so I wasn't on this particular Huawei trip where it was basically a media tour, right?
It was it's basically a media tour, but more just so kind of getting the media tour would be the best way to describe it. I'm trying to describe it a little bit better, but really it was a media tour of some of their different facilities.
Yeah.
We got to talk about some of the we actually got to see some new, well, not new hardware, but essentially the Mate X, which was really nice. And then we also had an opportunity to meet up with Honor, which was a nice little surprise at the end. They changed it up on us, but it was a good trip.
Okay, so I wanted to sort of go into some of the nuances of the trip because obviously, I mean, if anybody follows TK or even Jaime was there, and we all, me included, followed everyone on IG stories, on social media and whatnot, and watched as, honestly, you guys seem to be having pretty much a grand old time. And I guess the question on everybody's mind is that, like, Huawei is still in the midst of the craziness in the US.
Yeah.
The latest news, which I may or may not have pulling up right now on the screen, is that Huawei was given yet another 90-day extension.
Yeah, so that was something that they were, at the time, obviously they didn't know they had the extension. So the conversations were all around, what will happen come the Monday, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess my question here then is, what did Huawei communicate to what was a group of basically Western media about where all of that lies? Because there's been a lot of news with Huawei, like their operating system is now basically official.
It is, and it actually we did see a demo of it during that Honor experience. So that was on their TV. So they were running it on as a TV OS, but it operated, or at least it functioned similarly to the way their desktop mode is on their Android devices. So I'm not surprised. They didn't show it to us running on any smartphone. They also didn't say that they would run it on a smartphone. They said basically they're still committed. They repeated basically what we heard before, was that they're committed to Android. Their goal is to try to work out and find a way to get the software, get the updates, and figure out what's going on. So in their mind, at the time, at least when we were sitting with them, their message was pretty much, we would like to work with what we can do to fix things and move forward. But they didn't explain to us any kind of like plan B or what can we do if let's say Monday comes around and then suddenly Android's no longer it's not really no longer available. So it's the licensing only affects future versions of Android. Existing versions of Android that already have the Play Store are fine. It's just new versions of their devices won't get certified, aka let's say the new ones that are coming out. So that the ban is a little bit of a.
So are they willing to? Okay, the word's not willing. Are they going to still develop their upcoming devices? Let's say the anticipated Mate 30 Pro.
I was going to say Mate 30 Pro is my
P40, whatever the case may be. Who knows what the naming convention will be? But if they don't have Android certifications, will it be? They called it Harmony OS, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it had Harmony. I think it was Hongmeng.
Hongmeng was one.
Yeah, that's the other. But Harmony is what we usually call it. I think that's what most of us. Like I said, it ran perfectly fine on the Honor Vision TV, and we had a chance to play with it. They made a phone call. I mean, it operated very nicely, actually. It didn't look like it had too many issues. There's a few little bugs here and there, but nothing that would basically say that it wasn't, fully flushed. But it just wasn't on a phone. That's the only
I don't
problem.
imagine you were able to get any footage of it, huh?
The TV or the actual
Of the TV running Harmony. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're working on a video for that as well.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll have a little bit of the footage here, so you get a bit of a tease from TK's video. But I imagine if TK was able to get that footage, Jaime was able to as well.
Oh yeah, Jaime has it. Was actually MJ posted a picture. Was it MJ that posted? No, Haya. Haya posted a picture of all of us trying to take pictures of the
there you go.
the Honor Vision. So it was basically myself, Jaime, and then you go down the line.
Okay.
It was a lot of us.
So what was Huawei's general climate when they were addressing their company to you guys?
So it was very professional. It was very, and it was very nice. The people that we worked with over there were very, very nice and very helpful, and they provided us all any questions we may have had.
Sure.
We went through different areas, and it wasn't really just like one presentation. We didn't just show up, we sat down. There was basically different events, different venues we went to, different presentation rooms. We got a chance to go see an actual phone being made, a P30 Pro being made.
In the factory, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
we went from the beginning of the line all the way to the end. We went step by step. Everybody got a chance. No photos, unfortunately. We couldn't take any pictures there.
That's what they did too. I remember going on a trip similar to this.
Yeah.
But it was a couple of years back. A whole different.
A lot of people.
The world is different now.
Yeah. So a lot of people reference the same that they've been on something similar,
Yes.
and but that was an experience. If you've never, just to know what it takes to get your phone from parts. I'm talking about like down from to the microchip to the solder joint to the actual board to the actual just everything being put on, and we saw it going through the quality assurance, being built, loading the operating system on and booting it up, checking to see if there's sound there. They had people just listening to make sure the speakers were working, and then doing a drop test in the process, and then seeing a phone at the end, and I was like, fully packaged in the box with the serial numbers and IMEIs and all of that stuff. That was just. I wanted them, I told them, I said, this should have ended with us getting a phone. To see and actually say that I've seen my phone being made.
That's really funny because we all said the exact same thing. Yeah,
because that's like the logical thing, right? You go through the whole thing, you see, the whole concept come in, and then you see just the box go. I'm like, but that's the phone you should give to a person that does a review.
Like literally see it hot off the press.
Exactly. That's what you should do. And they're like, yeah, sorry about that. We got a chance to see a whole bunch of stuff on their 5G stuff, which is really cool.
So that's the other layer of all of this. So Huawei on the device side, obviously, are talking about, are we going to have Android? Will we be able to certify the phones?
That was a small part. Yeah, they focused mostly on everything that they were doing. It wasn't just that. It was also their R&D, also the fact that they believe that to basically allow their employees to own part of the company. That was the other thing they wanted to explain.
That's their culture.
It's not just if they needed to raise up more money, they actually allow the people to invest more into the company. And we also got to see that European super
that was the next part
I don't know, the like weird
psychedelic.
Well, psychedelic because I knew I was in China, but it didn't look like I was in China. Yeah. I was literally as if I was walking in the streets of Germany or even Paris. At one point, one of the shots looked like I was walking up to the Chateau de Versailles, which was an amazing, beautiful castle in Paris, and I've been to myself. And he looked so close to it, but it was not Versailles. So it was like, okay, you guys are messing with it. But then the whole thing was also kind of, super hot.
The thing is that European city, and we'll focus on this, and then I want to come back to the 5G stuff. The little village, when I went a couple of years ago, they were just building all of that.
And they're still expanding. They're not done.
Oh, they're not done. They're not done. But people are now living there now, right?
They work there. From the way they explained it to us as people, so we got on the train and we took there's two routes. There's again, this is the best, not the messed up part. I'm just saying it messes with your perception, right? You know where you are. Yeah. So we took a train.
Oh God.
So there was two trains. There's the red line and the orange line. The red line only went in a smaller route, and then the orange line went a lot longer, and it was much. That's the one you want to do the big tour. And then they were still building a third one that was also going to more and more cities. So you could see some areas, and then a lot of us were wondering, it was like, is this like Universal Studios where it was just a facade, right? Are these just basically, you could just topple them down or whatever? So we stopped in one of the towns and we had lunch there, and they even had a 7-Eleven in there. There was like a 7-Eleven, and walking around, checking it out. It looks amazing. It looks great. It's hard to believe that this is where they do work, but they explained us basically that the big buildings are all office buildings.
I thought they were telling us that they were going to be dormitories for their many, many employees.
It's if maybe some.
Which in and of itself sounds insane, right?
Yeah, if you think about it. But the way they explained it was, they said, no, people come to work here, they commute, they have areas where they can park, they take the train or the rail system that they have.
Interesting.
And it was just, like I said, surreal to just think of it, because when we left Shenzhen, which is a concrete jungle that looks very much like a downtown Hong Kong or New York or something. It just basically looked like a very industrialized building, and then suddenly you're in Europe and you're looking at like very historic monuments and so. I mean, nothing specific. It wasn't copied per se, like this looks exactly like that, but it pulled so much reference.
A lot of inspiration from like European or like Victorian architecture, I suppose.
No, like I said, at one point I truly felt like I was walking up to the Chateau de Versailles.
That's funny.
It looked so much like that, and Marianne was there, and she was taking pictures, and it was just an experience to be in there. It was too hot. We couldn't stay out too long. So that little walk, getting off the train, eating, and then walking up to that little French area, and then getting back on the train, we were miserable.
And it's just all buses is the thing. Anybody out there who might ever be or might be curious about these types of trips, it's bus.
Yeah. We're bussed around everywhere. And then we got there, and it was just, That's definitely one of the big highlights there. They did that, and then it was just like, because I didn't believe it. I've seen it before. I've heard other people being there, and they're like, they have that campus, and I'm like, no, this, and it's getting bigger, and I just wish there were more people could see it.
Yeah.
So they let us take pictures. They even though there was a sign that said no, but on the train and off, and we took a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm trying to put my thoughts around trying to put a summarization of that, because that to me is something I think people would love to just see.
Very gnarly, because like that just goes to show you how big of a company Huawei truly is, that they could actually build an entire village just for their employees to work in that looks like a European city. Like that sentence I just said sounds insane.
But it provides so much inspiration if you think about it. It's just so beautiful. Like, I think you and I have talked about it in the past. Like, when you're a creative, you're trying to work in the creative field, and you surround yourself with other creatives, you feel like you energize yourself. You become more, you get more inspiration in it. And I think it's when you're trying to inspire people and give them more motivation, I think it's a great way to show them, like, look, you're doing great. This looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody anywhere else can say that they can, they work there. Once they do, it's just such a unique experience.
Yeah.
So for me, visiting it was really nice. And then, we had lunch there. It was good. I wish the weather was a little bit better, because we would have done a more walking tour than.
Well, that's what Southeast Asia is like, So one quick thing before we get into our mid-break, I just wanted to talk real quick about the 5G stuff, because I remember seeing like you were doing speed tests in a lab and whatnot.
We did the speed test. Yeah, that was.
What was the top speed that you got? Wasn't it?
It was 860. I want to say 864.
864 megabits per second.
It was in a controlled environment. We weren't outside. There was a device we basically walked into a hall that was like an experience zone for 5G. It was basically, we walked into the building and we went down and we did this little walk around. First thing they did, they showed us how fast it can get. And then after that, they showed us also some other implementations of the way they feel like 5G can be, used. They're trying
what you can do with it, yeah.
Well, because they feel like a lot of people just focus on the speed, right? I mean, 5G is fast. But why is it fast, and what can we do with it? Right? It's not just fast for the sake of being fast, just be able to download movies and stuff. That's one implementation that
is the first thing people think of, though.
Well, that's because that's how it applies to us, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when I go home, or if I'm getting on a flight and I want to be able to basically binge watch like an entire season of Orange is the New Black, I want to be able to download the whole thing, right?
Sure.
I didn't finish downloading it on the way back, but 2 more episodes. But they're saying basically the ability of like they used it on drones, and they did give us a demo on that. That was really nice.
So like syncing data between drones.
Data syncing, but also the ability of having like 4K 3D video being broadcasted from a drone,
the drone? Oh, okay.
flying above you, being controlled by somebody, and you still being able to get like full high resolution 4K video.
That's pretty cool.
Remote control of vehicles, delivery trucks. Also, basically using it for. They showed us a demo where they had, I guess, this area that's up in the mountain where they have a lot of like, I want to say like sea creatures. I couldn't remember the exact.
Yeah.
I don't want to say orcas or anything like specific because they didn't show us the area.
Okay.
But it was essentially the way they were using 5G to sync and monitor the life of the animals and how they were in the ocean or in the lake up there and how they were able to do it via node transfer. They were able to sync up 5G by just basically how far the distance between each node, and they went all the way up to the mountain. And it's all wireless, no wires, and it's easy to set up. The 5G nodes are very small, and they had the different setups, the different sizes. But it was an amazing tour. That experience, and then having us actually put the goggles on for the 5G was really nice.
So it doesn't seem like Huawei is particularly deterred. Okay, so again, right before we get to our mid-break, it is the question on everyone's minds. Taking away, just for a second, all of the stuff going on in China in general right now, especially between China and the US, as far as a company is concerned and their products and the things they're trying to do, what kind of message do you feel like Huawei was trying to impart? Not only to you, but to everyone
it felt
that's
like
hearing this.
Their statement was business as usual. I didn't feel like there was a, come Monday, if we don't hear the right answer, things shut down.
Yeah.
It was not. It didn't seem like it was even a thought. Like I said, the decision doesn't necessarily just turn off the lights. That's the thing. It's not an automatic turn off lights, but it impacts the future devices, like you said, the potential devices that could come out. And when we did get a chance to work with the Mate X, the actual iteration of the Mate X that could come out wasn't the one that we saw, and could potentially need to go through certification if it changes the hardware. Because the original version that we saw was a long time ago.
That's true.
And the conversation, at least that we heard, is that it could potentially come out with whatever the next iteration of the Kirin chipset, the 990, whatever they decide to call it. And at that point, also coming out with Android 10.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk a little bit about that in a second. But first, let's go ahead and jump into our mid-break. Support for today's show comes from Oregon State University. Earn your Oregon State MBA 100% online from wherever you are. Choose from specialized tracks in organizational leadership, business analytics, marketing, and supply chain and logistics management. Each track was designed with feedback from industry partners as a direct response to market needs. And courses are taught by faculty who have extensive real-world experience. Oregon State is a nationally ranked leader in online education, and its College of Business is AACSB accredited. That is a distinction that only 5% of the world's business schools can claim. As an online student, you earn the same accredited MBA as an on-campus student, with the same curriculum taught by the same faculty. You'll learn alongside accomplished leaders from around the world, and your global network of peers, along with a robust alumni base and employer network, will be in your corner, committed to your success. Get where you're going faster with the Oregon State MBA, and learn more at mba.oregonstate.edu/pocketnow. All right, so we're back from our mid-break. There are a couple of recurring segments that I want to put out there, but I'll do one really quick. It's pretty obvious what is in our pocket now. We are working with the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, which last episode was all about, but I wanted to kind of highlight the fact that TK already got his regular Note 10.
Yeah.
The smaller one, which
the
feels...
baby one.
The baby one. It feels sublime, honestly.
I almost want to say this is like an S10.
This feels so good. Like, this is such a good... This is the perfect size for a phone, especially one that's trying to be big.
You want to switch, bro?
I mean,
I held both of them at Unpacked, and I had an opportunity just to feel like how, from a form factor, I like the bigger. I like the bigger one more, but
the bigger one actually provides more, also, which is the significant bummer about there being two versions.
Which I felt like, why?
So the 12 gigabytes of RAM on here, I am feeling the benefit, mainly because I did use Dex for a little bit.
So I haven't even fired up Dex on the small one yet, but this one comes with 8. It's not that far back, and it's higher than what we usually used to come with 6, I think, with most notes. But what I really the challenge that I had with, because I usually get both, so I got the 10 and I got the 10 Plus. It's just I felt like the S10 to the S10 Plus was a more similar story than what you have with the 10 and the 10 Plus on the Note. Because in the S10 line, they went with the E. So when we went with, you know what I mean, like the display, we went with 1080p over QHD.
True. Though I will admit, I have not even turned on QHD.
And then that was another thing I point to a whole bunch of people. I usually say, out of the box, most Samsung devices, even if they're QHD compliant, come out at 1080p. So you're getting this resolution anyways, which really, there's a lot of positives to this. And I personally, I don't hate it. I like it. I just prefer the larger one.
Yeah, exactly. So with that in mind, talking about, I did get a comment on one of my earlier videos about how, hey, I said in the video, hey, open up your display settings. I bet you, if you're using a Samsung device, it says FHD Plus right now.
Yeah, if you never played with it before, yeah.
Yeah, sure enough, I got a bunch of comments that are like, wow, I didn't realize that.
It's a weird thing. I don't know why. Well, it's the same thing even with some of the other devices that support, let's say, higher refresh rate. They come out of the box with 60 frames. So I'm like,
that's true. Okay, so speaking of comments on a Note 10 Plus video, I do want to respond to a few comments from the previous episode, which was all about the colors of the Note 10 Plus. That episode was, of course, with my girlfriend, Isa Rodriguez, who's all about the colors of these different phones. So let's go ahead and get through a few of the top comments. Jesse Diaz, for a moment, I saw more fingerprints than color. Yeah, it's a glass phone. That's true.
Hence why I have a case.
I loved this one. Sayan Saha said, it only reminds me of the backside of an old 700 megabyte CD. You see the bottom?
Man, yeah. It does. It does. And he's not the first person. I've heard it before. It does look like the backside of a CD, if you remember what they are.
Yeah. Marsh One Jr. About the headphone jack, it's about a matter of being able to charge your phone and also listen to it, not having to worry about the Bluetooth headphones battery life too.
Yeah.
Kind of true, yeah. I mean, everything's running on batteries now, and yes, if something dies, you're out of luck for a bit.
But it's also because they didn't give us options, right? In the box, we didn't get...
There's no adapter.
There's no adapter, or even an accessory to pick up that has the splitter. So to me, it's like you remove something, but you didn't give us the solution, at least with the first time you do it. So.
Yeah. Betty Sakuma, she's right. Talking about Isa. She's right. It's a mirror, and I didn't like it. I ordered the white, but was very disappointed with the color choices that they were so bad. I nearly stayed with my beautiful Lilac Note 9. That's a good one. Yeah, Isa knows. And then probably just the last one, since we're kind of making the show a little bit short for this week. Where was it? JK. Again, another one for Isa. She'll probably like this one. All of the colors should be available everywhere.
Yes, because the red one is the one I wanted. At launch.
Oh yeah, that's right. You bought the Note 10. It was here. You could only get black or white.
Yep,
that's ridiculous.
It's a frustrating, because the weird part about it probably will release, but like later, and by that point you're already invested in it. You're not gonna, you wouldn't sell the phone just to get the color at that point. But if you were getting into it and you had the option, then that's where you get people to pay that little bit more. Samsung, hint. But yeah.
And then what was it? The Note 10 Plus, that blue one, is only for Best Buy, right?
I think so. And then the red one was I want to say it was at Europe, or
we did see one of our friends pop up with the red one in India. Yeah, it was India.
That's the second. What is it? Okay, I got to figure out what it is with India and red. Is it a preference maybe?
I don't know. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, because OnePlus did the same thing with their OnePlus One.
Oh, fair.
It's the only place they release it in red. Every other market get the shiny silver.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so we'll get back to more device talk from Huawei. You got a chance to play with the Mate X. A slightly updated version is what I kept hearing.
Slightly updated, but not final. Still being worked on. Okay. So supposedly it's been updated. So
what was updated though?
They wouldn't specify. Oh. But not only that, when you looked into it, the software wasn't final because it still says Android 3.1 on top of Android 5. EMUI 3.1 over Android 5.1 or Huawei has always does that whenever they're working on software and it's not final. They change the information, so it's basically just headers information, so that you don't know what it is. For the most part, the software looked like it was pretty much finalized. There was a few glitches here and there.
But it was Android.
It was Android. Sure. It was
clarifying that.
Yeah. So no, there's. I did say that to somebody. I think the reality of the matter is, even if they do switch, let's say they do switch to another operating system.
Yeah.
The user wouldn't know. They're not running stock Android. they wouldn't see what Android looks like.
But isn't it that the apps that support that only run on Android would not be able to run though?
No, actually, the current version, for at least the way I understood, unless they didn't explain it correctly, current versions of Android apps do run. Not the final one, not when Android Q comes out. I'm not sure if that changes something in there. But the current versions of Android apps will run it within Harmony OS.
Harmony? Oh.
So Harmony wasn't so far off from Android that it just basically, like French and Japanese kind of thing. We're talking...
But the runtime is not part of the license of Android?
That... He wouldn't go into specifics when I got in.
That's really odd, because that is the assumption everyone is making. Is that
it is
you lose Android, you can't do the runtime, you can't run apps.
It's the way they explain it is current version of at least the beta that we saw, the EMUI 10.0, and basically current version of Harmony OS are compatible, but they don't know what would happen down the road.
Okay. Fair enough.
But as far as specifics, what runtimes, we don't get a chance to look at the code. That's the problem.
Yeah, of
we
course.
barely even had a chance to. So that's why we didn't see it on a phone. So there was no way to try to download anything. And the only one we did see was on the TV that they had control on, and they basically booted up and turned off. We barely got it. I barely had my hands on the remote for like a little bit just to take a quick picture. But other than that, it's an interesting experience. Like I said, we need to see it on a device to understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's so far off that it's like night and day.
That's really interesting. That's a very specific nuance that I did not think about, that they could still run apps as long as Harmony supported those apps. But I thought that the actual, like, on a fundamental level, I thought that the running apps is part of an Android thing. No, it's an operating system.
Keep in mind, they brought Android applications over to Chrome OS. It's not. It depends on the source and what is basically the fundamental building blocks of Harmony.
Okay.
And we don't really get that specific. Like I said,
is it on a more fundamental level than I was thinking of? Like it's a Java Python thing?
Depends. Again, it depends on how.
Or rather, Linux, I should say.
I think they may have some shared commonalities. I don't think they reinvented the wheel. I think they morphed.
So maybe that part makes a little more sense to me. That on the pure code level, it's Linux anyway. So yeah, if you can make your app,
they can make it work, but it depends on how the new versions of Android and depending on how Harmony ends up being. Like I said, we haven't seen
what it actually is doing
on a device because, like I said, it's running it on a TV. The interface is very, very. It's not similar to a phone. It always runs in the same aspect ratio. Again, the details behind it are harder to look at.
I see.
We couldn't go into the settings tab. We couldn't look into any specifics.
I got you.
But it was.
Well, how about the phone itself? Are you still excited about foldables and did this extra... Oh, this was your first time looking at the Mate X.
It's my first time looking at the Mate X.
So your impressions then, I should say.
It felt right.
This is telling though, because
it is
you're
because
conflicted.
I'm trying to jump back into that moment when I first held it. There was a lot of us there, and it was a hard time trying to get my hands on it for as long as I was able to hold it. The mechanism is very solid. It feels very good, and not to quote Juan Carlos here, it feels very good in the hand. Juan, sorry. Every time I say this, he jumps into the back of my mind. The interface was very nice. The transitions were good. The colors were really good. We still have that bubble in there, which kind of bugged me, but 90% of the time, I didn't see it when I was holding it. I only saw it when other YouTubers or
also
other
when
creators.
It's folded. Of course, it's not.
No,
when you're using it in what should be. I feel like, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Your first time using the Mate X, what configuration are you going to use it the most in? Is it going to be folded or folded out?
So for me, 90% of the time, it's probably going to be folded. I'm not going to actually unfold it. But that's where I felt like it was a much better implementation than what I saw with the Samsung, the Galaxy
Fold. Yeah.
The moment I held it and I picked it up and I was like, wait, I can do everything I want on this phone without having to open it? I'm like, that's the right solution for a foldable. The other way around makes no sense.
Yeah,
because you're begging me to open it up, especially when you make. So for me, it's just the way that we have it on Samsung coming out, at least right now, is just that the outer display is not as functional as the inner display. Had they made them basically very similar,
like
or maybe a little bit bigger,
grid or something like that.
Yeah, it was almost like this is like a peek window a little bit.
It's a palm on the front.
You can do very little, very minimal amount of things in there, and then it forces you to go in.
Yep.
It's a great. I mean, the display on the inside looked great. We didn't get a chance to play with it either at the S10 launch or even the Note. There was no presence of the Fold in the demo area. So that's for after the show. But holding the Mate X, using it, the sound quality, playing videos on it. I didn't get a chance to play some games. I wish I had an opportunity to play some games just to see how the frame rate and the experience. But it felt good. It's solid. It's not heavy, which is surprising. Yeah. For the fact that it ran around a 4,500 milliamp battery. I think it's a little bit bigger than what we had on the P30 Pro. But 90% of the time, if you took it out of your pocket, you could do everything you want, and that's what I loved about it. You can use the back cameras and use the dual view option. That was really functional. Mm-hmm. The ability that we had Hubert with us over there, and he was just modeling for all of us. And then you have the ability of showing the subject a preview of what they look like while you're composing the picture.
That's
so
good.
They have the ability of basically agreeing or disagreeing with you. So
I'm surprised Issa didn't react to that just now. Go and restate what you were saying.
So one of the cool things about the Mate X is the ability of actually, when you have it folded, to show the person that you're taking a picture of a preview of what they look like
when you're taking.
So it's not me just taking a picture of you, but that entire back display. You look at yourself. You set up your own configuration, whatever you want to look like, whatever you want to do, and it's a big enough display that you can see what you're doing.
And the camera flipping, but instead of the camera flipping, it's the screen that
the whole screen wraps around.
Well, because the cameras are set up on one end.
Well, wasn't there that Vivo phone that had the little screen on the back?
No, it was a Meizu.
Oh, Meizu.
Yeah. So, but just the way they did it, it worked very nice. It wasn't intuitive when you first turned it on, but once you hit that dual view, I'm like, wow.
I'm getting goosebumps.
When I saw that, I'm like, that's when you make the phone functional. It's no longer a pretty phone that folds. It's a phone that actually has purpose. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want to get the Galaxy Fold anymore. Yeah, to me, it's more like
shots fired.
Yeah, it's nothing's wrong with the design, but I want it to be functional. I don't want something to just look pretty. If it looks pretty, it'll fade away because then something else will look pretty. It has to have purpose, and they made it functional. Yeah. The camera array on the back, you can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. You want it in tablet mode, you open it. You close it, but when you have it closed, it works like a full phone.
Funny thing, I've never been excited over foldable phones, but that just makes me want to try one.
It's functional.
The Mate X,
it's a functional thing, and it's a functional thing that you could definitely see people benefiting from. It's not a gimmick. It's not something you could just, having a full display that functions that way, and you can configure and set up your own thing, and then I'm still in control without having to flip the camera, reposition, and lose where I am and all of that. So
it's a very tangible benefit.
Yeah,
that actually, I mean, definitely between us will be very useful.
I should imagine myself using that right now.
Yeah.
And that is my one test if I want something. If I can see it in real life scenarios and I can imagine using it, I want it. That is the first thing that anyone's ever told me that has made me want to try that folding phone.
Yeah.
As a foldable, yeah.
So I'm guessing Huawei had no info on release or.
So they're saying sometime possibly November, which coincides with EMUI 10.
It's going to be a whole. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
That's roughly why. So Samsung said September. So remember, back in the day, it was supposed to be May, June, and then it was October, November kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they're playing the game of let them release it first. I don't know.
Yeah,
because that's what happened, right?
True.
They learned from what happened to Samsung, and they're working on some of their stuff. So my understanding is that the button configuration that we had there was also not final. They were going to smooth it out a little bit more. It was a little bit more pronounced.
You're fine. It's cool.
It wasn't as pronounced. It's not going to be as pronounced, but potentially the new Kirin chipset, as well as possibly EMUI 10, which would make sense. You'd want to have it running, but I'm not sure as to having it being tested on it because it wasn't running EMUI 10. Because they showed us some of the new animations and everything that were going into EMUI 10, we didn't see that on the current version.
Gotcha.
But they have a few months.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll go ahead and call it on that one. It was all about Huawei, all about the Mate X. I almost said 10. Mate X.
Well, I mean, it will be if it runs EMUI 10.
But there was already a Mate 10. Wasn't
That's
there?
true.
Yeah.
There is a Mate 10, and there's Mate 10 Pro, there's Mate 20. So they have to say X.
Yeah, so the Mate X, Mate Cross, the Mate X. So it was all about that. If you are excited about the Mate X, let us know why.
Wakanda Forever. I just did this, and once I saw myself, I'm like, Wakanda Forever. I'm like, okay, great. That's when you get too many cross branding in your head, right?
Very true.
Anyways.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and call on this one. Let us know. Oh, the question for this episode, and we'll talk about it in our next episode with some of your top comments. Are you still excited about the Mate X, foldables in general? That's going to be your first question. The second one will be, how do you feel about Huawei and where they are, the trajectory at the moment? Of course, the big piece of news from recently is that they have 90 more days here in the US. But but of course, Huawei is a global brand. They're all over the place, and they're also in Europe as well. So a lot of you are all over the place. Let us know how you feel about Huawei from wherever you are. From there, TK, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you?
So pretty simple. Just look up TK Bay, but basically on Twitter and Instagram is TKDSL8655. Don't ask me why I have that name. But yeah, just TK Bay over at XDA or even on my channel, TK Bay on YouTube.
All right, wonderful. Let me just cut through that. Pocketnow is found at Pocketnow on Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everywhere that you might be enjoying your social media. And the podcast itself is available on YouTube, which you might be watching right now, but also you can listen to it on any of your favorite podcasting apps. I already gave you the question of this episode, but you can also drop some likes on the videos, give us some reviews on iTunes, Stitcher, any of the different podcasting platforms. And as far as I am concerned, you know me, I am JV. I love tech and I love to drink me some tea. I am at JVTechT all over the social medias as well. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and call it on that one. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next episode.